Today, I want to have a conversation regarding geographical farming, right? That's the conversation, geographical farming, right? It is a wonderful lead source if worked effectively, right? Key, working it effectively. See, the problem we have is, are we picking the right geographical farm? How do we know, what's the right size of the farm that you should be working, right? Do you actually know what the return on investment should be for a geographical farm, right? You're spending a lot of money on this. You really need to know what should be your target, your goal to getting transactions. What's that return on investment, right? Understanding what happens in a geographical farm when there is a dominant agent in there. Should you go into that geo farm with that dominant agent? And at the end of the day, what are the steps required to work a proper geographical farm? So that's what I'm going to get into. We're going to get into that. We're going to answer those questions. So first question, really big one is, hey, how do we know if we got the right geographical farm? How do we know that? Well, what we want to do is a little bit of an analysis. Step back, take a look at that geographical farm, right? You're going to do a little bit of guessing here, a little bit of guessing. What I mean by that is, you want to figure out the size of the farm, right? And when I say guessing, I mean, you may not know exactly what size of farm you actually want to work, but just bear with me. Let's pretend we're selecting 1,000 homes. Maybe that's the size you work, maybe it's not. We'll get to that in a second, right? We'll get to what that return should look like, what that size should be for you. But let's start with 1,000 homes. I have 1,000 homes. Look at this great neighborhood. It's got 1,000 homes for there. How do we know if that neighborhood is the right geo farm for us? And the number I want you to write down is 6% turnover or more. So when I look at the 1,000 homes and I go into my MLS system and I take a look at what has sold in the last 12 months in those 1,000 homes, how many homes should have come up and sold? And the answer is 60. If I want a 6% turnover rate, that's the number we're using. That's the number we're using to know if it's the right farm. Hey, if it's 70, great, that's a 7% turnover. If it was, let's say 100, great, that's a 10% turnover. Hey, 6 or more is what we're looking for. Now, if I have a 500 home geographical farm, I want to make sure that there's been 30 homes or more that have sold in the last 12 months. Now, little caveat here for you guys. We are in a pandemic. So looking at the last 12 months may not be as accurate as possible. So perhaps you may take the numbers for 2019, January 1st to December 31st, 2019, and that would be the number you would use as how many homes have sold in that marketplace. Okay, so 6% turnover, that's the number one. The next thing we look at is the size of the farm. How do we know what's the size of the farm? And that really comes down to your budget. It really does. Your budget would dictate the size of the farm you start. And I can tell you right now that the smallest farm would be 500 homes and then beyond. So the minimum you're looking at is 500. Maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 1,500, maybe it's 2,000, maybe it's 10,000, maybe it's 50,000, whatever it is. It really comes down to your budget. And what I mean by that is you need to have enough funds here to allow this to work, allow it to kind of play itself out for at least a year, right? We need at least a year before we start to really get a good return on this. Right? So that is key, is understanding that it's your budget that will dictate the size of your farm. And now, what's involved in that budget? Well, I'm going to get to that in the plan. What does the plan look like? And then you can figure it out. So the plan is going to be, strategic, and then you look at your budget according to that plan, right? So what is the return on investment for this? If I'm going to be generating business from my database, from this geographical farm, how much business should I get? What we know is this, and here's the ROI. You can write this down. Is after 1 year of working the plan for my geographical farm, I should be getting 10% of the transactions in that marketplace. So going back to my example of 1,000 homes in which 60 have sold each and every year, for the last number of years, 6% turnover rate. After 1 year, I should be selling at least six homes in that marketplace. That's what I should be selling based upon my plan. If I'm not, then I'm not following the plan, right? And here's the great news. After 2 years of working this plan, your turnover should be 20%. Your return on investment should be 20%. So again, going back to the same example, 1,000 homes, 60 selling every year. At 20%, I should be doing 12 transactions a year from this geographical farm. And that's after 2 years of really working it, right? Now, if there's a dominant agent in the marketplace, my question to you would be, what's their number? How do you determine them to be a dominant agent? If they're taking 20, 25%, maybe even 30% of the market share, they are definitely a dominant agent. Now you have to ask yourself, is it worth going up against that dominant agent? Because now your process, for you to get that 1 year under your belt or 2 years under your belt may take a bit longer. So that will help you decide whether you should go into that marketplace or not. Right? Maybe they're getting close to retirement and they're slowing down, and yeah, maybe this is a perfect time to get into the marketplace, right? That's something for you to decide. And now when it comes to working this geographical farm, here is the plan of action for you to follow. Number one, in the first 6 months, you need to send out a postcard every 10 days. Every 10 days. So that's 3 postcards a month for the first 6 months. After that, it becomes 2 postcards a month for life. So first 6 months, you're sending out a postcard every 10 days. After 6 months, it's every 14 days. It's 2 a month. So it starts off with 3 a month, and then it goes to 2 a month after 6 months. Now, the postcards should be designed in a way where the one side of the postcard should be your branding. This is your branding. Everything here, nice postcard with your branding, picture, your contact information, everything. This part never changes. You only change that once in a while, like once a year type of idea, because it should get a photo once a year. Then the other side is your call to action. It is that I just listed, or I just sold, or here is what we did. Here is a case study. Here is a yikes campaign, whatever it may be. The other side of this postcard should change regularly. That's what's changing, is the other side of the postcard. Now, going back to the question is, how big is my farm area? Well, if you're sending out 3 postcards a month for the first 6 months, and then going down to 2 postcards after that, that will dictate how much money you should be spending. And my experience has been that ideally, if you're looking at a budget, you want to have the cost of the postcard plus the cost of sending it out through either Canada Post or US Mail or whatever it may be, US Postal, whatever you're sending it out. Ideally, it should be under 25 cents. So if I'm sending out 1,000 homes, in the first 6 months, it should cost me, under $750 a month. And then after the 6 months, it goes down to $500 a month. So it's just having a clear understanding of your budget, knowing where you're at. I'm just giving you rough ideas. Every marketplace is different, but ideally, this is expensive, but ideally, you want to keep it under 25 cents, right? The next thing we look at is we want to door knock, number two. So number 1 was the postcards. Number 2 is we want to door knock or call that neighborhood, that geographical farm 3 times a year. 3 times a year, that same person, you're calling them or you're seeing them, right? Number 3, anytime someone lists a home in your geographical farm, another agent, how dare they listed a home in your geographical farm, I want you to go in there, I want you to preview that home, I want you to leave there your business card, and then you go and door knock 20 homes around that listing. 5 doors to the right, 5 doors to the left, 10 doors in front, and what you want to do is find a buyer for that home. Ask the neighbors, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Neighbor, your neighbor at 103 Norman's up for sale. They have blah, 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 blah. Who do you know? They'll like to move closer to you. right? You want to go in and start looking for that buyer. Now, what do we know to be true? Every time someone lists a home in a marketplace that there aren't too many homes for sale, we find that in the first couple of weeks, at least one other home will come up for sale. And it's never with that same agent. So even though you're calling around the neighbors or door knocking the neighbors and asking who do they know like to move closer to them, what you're going to find is someone is actually interested in selling. And that's the goal behind this, is we want to get that second listing, that other listing that comes up. So number 3 is preview the home and then door knock 20 neighbors around that home. The next thing we want to do is number 4, to become a dominant agent in that marketplace, we need to shoot video. Video. Yes, we need to talk about the community. We need to talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. We need to be that agent, the agent of choice in that area, the knowledge broker. So it's not necessarily always real estate related. It just may be what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in the community, right? Talking about restaurants or that bakery or really neat trails that are in that community. So we want to be the knowledge broker and put up video, constantly creating video about that community. And then the next thing we do to engage into the neighborhood is to be part of the neighborhood, right? Be part of the Facebook groups that's in there. That's number 5. Do any sort of events that the community may have, sponsor something, right? Maybe, if it's the food truck and craft beer festival, you're going to be there with your table. Hand out cards, be part of the community, be involved, right? So all the plan of action is real simple. It is postcards, it is door knocking and calling, it is previewing properties and door knocking again, those preview properties. It is shooting video and knowing the neighborhood, and it is also engaging in the community, being part of that community. All right, so this is the plan of action to working your geographical farm so that you can get 10% return. Now, if you really want to step up, here's a little bonus. You create a Facebook ad or a Google banner ad, and you targeted that specific neighborhood so that every time someone logs into Facebook, they see your picture. That's the little bonus there. Be always top of mind with everybody. All right, guys. What day is it today, baby? That's right. It's a money-making day. If you're on this call, it's a money-making day for you. So who do you have to talk to today to make a difference in your life? Go out there and have fun. Talk to you guys real soon.